First and 15. Four-man rush. Ryan unloads. Hurst, while taking a hit from Sorensen, holds on. That's why.
Good morning and welcome to the Deep Out. The Jersey Jedis defeated the Florence Freedom by a score of 27-20. Shannon Harrison is the head coach of the Jersey Jedis, and Brandon Wright is the head coach of the Florence Freedom. The Jedis quarterback Matt Ryan is the player of the game. His numbers were not great, but good enough to win the game. Ryan completed 56% of his passes for 215 yards, 3 TDs, and 2 interceptions. Halfback Ezekiel Elliott also had a nice day, rushing 14 times for 99 yards. Tight end Robert Tonyan had his best day of the season, 7 receptions for 84 yards and 2 awesome TDs. The Freedom put up a valiant fight. In some ways, they played better than the Jedis, completing 63% of their passes, converting 53% of their third downs, and keeping the ball for 33 minutes, 7 minutes longer than the Jedis. The Jersey Jedis are now 8-2. They've scored 321 points and allowed 218. The Florence Freedom is now 3-7. They've scored 264 points but allowed 244.
Hill's wide open, gets it to him. Hill, first down, looking for more. Inside the 10, inside the 5, and shoved out of bounds there.
From the 48, downfield goes Watson. This time it is Fuller able to make the catch. Got position on Antonio Hamilton in the pit.
The Key West Divers have defeated the Portland Storm by a score of 24-15. Randy Waltenberg is the head coach of the Key West Divers, and Windsor Cooper is the head coach of the Portland Storm. The Divers player of the game is quarterback Deshaun Watson. He has finally started to live up to his billing, completing 73% of his passes for 183 yards and 2 TDs. The $6 million man chipped in with 23 rushing attempts for 139 yards and 1 TD. Cook is second behind Henry for the league-leading rusher. The Storm did have a fair running game, 28 rushing attempts for 123 yards, but they could not keep up with Cook, as Herbert could not keep up with Deshaun Watson. Herbert completed 53% of his passes for 177 yards and 1 TD. The Key West Divers are now 8-3. They've scored 250 points but allowed 188. The Portland Storm is now 4-6. They have scored 190 points but allowed 207.
3rd and 3. Can the Texans convert? Yes, they can. Watson on the dump off to Cooks, who turns it. Chiefs by 3, looking for more. Across the middle, it's Kelsey found a seam in that defense.
The Greenwich Spartans have defeated the Chippewa Valley Badgers by a score of 21-20. Scott Smith is the head coach of the Greenwich Spartans, and Larry Zorn is the head coach of the Chippewa Valley Badgers. The Spartans quarterback Teddy Bridgewater had another good game, completing 77% of his passes for 260 yards and 1 interception. However, the player of the game has to be Travis Kelce, with 12 receptions and 122 yards. This is a big win for the Spartans over the great Tom Brady. The Badgers' Tom Brady was good this game, but not great. Great is needed for one man to beat an entire team by himself. Halfback Kenyon Drake has given up on his negative yardage season, rushing 13 times for 59 yards. The Greenwich Spartans are now 7-3. They've scored 211 points and allowed 166. And the CV Badgers are now 5-5. They've scored 177 points but allowed 206.
His pass is caught by Kelsey.
15. Go blue, Eddie. Who's hot?
The bell, nice twirling catch. Kelsey breaks one tackle down in the second.
Drive has taken up nearly 8 minutes. Robinson has some room. Robinson, there he goes. First NFL touchdown for the undrafted rookie, James Robinson.
The Lakeland Lizards had defeated the Toronto Titans by a score of 24-19. Kurt Retzlaff is the head coach of the Lakeland Lizards, and Rudy Gobbin is the head coach of the Toronto Titans. The Lizards halfback James Robinson is the player of the game. Rushing 14 times for 138 yards, Robinson has been the most dependable player for Lakeland all season long. The Lizards used two quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford and Daniel Jones. They completed 59% of their passes for 190 yards, 2 TDs, and 1 interception. The Titans halfback Derrick Henry had a respectable day. 25 rushing attempts for 130 yards and 1 TD. I hate to keep picking on him, but quarterback Phil Rivers' disastrous play compels me to blame him for the Titans' poor season. This game, Rivers completed 48% of his passes for 146 yards, 1 TD, and 1 interception. The Lakeland Lizards are now 7-3. They've scored 267 but allowed 194. The Toronto Titans are now 4-6. They have scored 242 points but allowed 263.
He's the fullback behind Rattler ahead of Robinson. Robinson runs it again, spins away from a defender and has a first down and more. As he's
4-3 jet, ready! All day, blue eyes! Christmas morning as Santa's coming down the chimney! Ready! I'm gonna bury your family! I'm gonna bury your dog! Bury your dog! Check! Now that's football! You get it? You like it? Come on!
I think the Sentinels just set a record for penalties in the first 3.
Down to 9. Hunter Renfrow in there, of course. Here's Carr now. Throwing. Zips it for Waller. Went up to get it and has the first down.
The Wisconsin Stooges defeated the Eau Claire Rockers by a score of 20-9. Bob Schultz is the head coach of the Wisconsin Stooges, and Steve Brandvold is the head coach of the Eau Claire Rockers. The Stooges player of the game is quarterback Derek Carr. He completed 67% of his passes for 199 yards and 1 TD. The running game helped out with 24 rushing attempts for 93 yards and also 1 TD. Wide receiver Tyreek Hill had a good day. 5 receptions for 87 yards and 1 TD. The Rockers did not play badly. Quarterback Kyler Murray completed 78% of his passes for 210 yards, 0 TDs but 1 interception. Wide receiver Mike Evans lit up the Stooges for 128 yards on 6 receptions. The problem was no touchdowns. Just 3 field goals from Rodrigo Blankenship. The Wisconsin Stooges are now 6-4. They've scored 176 but allowed 170. And the Eau Claire Rockers have fallen to 2-8. They've scored 162 but allowed 208 points.
From the 19. It's all the passing game now. There's his most trusted target. Again, it is Darren Waller.
Range and where you can throw him the football. Quick flip for Eckler. Eckler inside his blocks. 40, 35, still on his feet and gonna go the rest of the way.
The Sacramento Gunslingers defeated the Sheboygan Mashers by a score of 22-17. Randy Leeper is the head coach of the Sacramento Gunslingers, and Mark Flasher is the head coach of the Sheboygan Mashers. The Gunslinger halfbacks are the players of the game, rushing 36 times for 248 yards and 1 TD. Quarterback Russell Wilson completed 65% of his passes for 169 yards and 1 TD. Despite the Gunslingers playing well, Sheboygan would not give up, keeping the game close. The Mashers ran the ball well, 27 rushing attempts for 173 yards and 1 TD. Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback, had an off game, completing only 33% of his passes for 143 yards and 1 TD. The Gunslingers' defense often double-teamed star wide receiver Calvin Ridley, holding him to just 2 receptions for 14 yards. The Sacs Gunslingers are now 6-4. They've scored 230 points but allowed 203. And the Sheboygan Mashers are now 3-7. They've scored 210 points but allowed 258.
Rivers will take a deep shot. Separation. Caught by Austin Eckler for the touchdown. Quick strike. L.A.
Fresh set of downs for Rivers and company. 1st and 10. Once again goes to Taylor. His check down. Taylor, open real estate. Taking on tacklers inside the 15. He's down close to the 13.
With him, and it's been tough.
The Pembroke Pine Eagles defeated the Atlanta Blewett by a score of 31-22. John Wright is the head coach of the Pembroke Pine Eagles, and Chris Chambers is the head coach of the Atlanta Blewett. The Eagles' player of the game is halfback Jonathan Taylor. He rushed 25 times for 180 yards and 1 TD. Quarterback Lamar Jackson also had a great game, set up by the terrific running of Taylor. Jackson completed 67% of his passes for 128 yards, 3 TDs, and 1 interception. Jackson also rushed 8 times for 37 yards. The Bluets quarterback Aaron Rodgers had a fair game, completing 56% of his passes for 280 yards, 2 TDs, and 1 interception. Even the off-injured halfback Todd Gurley put up some nice numbers. 16 rushing attempts for 86 yards, and 6 receptions for 65 yards with 2 TDs. However, it was not enough to keep up with the soaring Eagles. The Pembroke Pine Eagles are now 5-5. They've scored 229 but allowed 251. The Atlanta Blewett is 3-7. They've scored 209 but have allowed 302.
Here's a quick throw to Taylor, back in the ball game. Nice job to survive that hit as he went through Amani Hooker. 14.
Well, you're not kidding. This is put your big boy pants on right there.
That's all, folks.